Hey, how you doing? Let's do one thing. We're gonna try something, and then we'll get right back into it. We're gonna do a puzzle rush. Try survival. Let's just do a quick one. Oops, we gotta retry that one. Try a new one. I'm gonna check something out. I'm gonna try that again. Oh, boom, that's me. Okay, we'll give that another try. Oh, that won the entire house there. Let me see here. Do a quick one of these. We'll get to like 20 and then we'll call it. It's just to warm up the mind. It's always good to do a little bit of tactics, otherwise you'll lose your edge. You don't want to do that. Hmm. this leads to a type of checkmate. Yeah, we'll call it right here. This is good to stop on. Otherwise, we'd go to like 50, but we have to get back to our recess your chess. It's good to take it to that point, and we'll see if we can get there a little quicker next time. You need to set yourself a time limit and get onto it. Okay, our next section is called A Little Friend, A Little Help from Its Friends. When reaching an endgame where one side has a passed pawn, we've already seen that a king and pawn endgame is the promised land basically set up. Other than that, what other pieces basically help the passed pawn go down the board? And of course, it's a bishop. And that's why we're setting up this position right here, my friends. Okay. White to move. I gotta enlarge the board. Okay, at a glance, all that at a glance will show that without help from the king or another pawn, white's b pawn isn't going anywhere. That's one. This is one setup, and then we're gonna do help from a friend number 2. Board editor, just replace these with knights, and then have white being played, and it's help from a friend 2. So you kind of get a glance at there we go. And now we're looking, same thing here. The b pawn is blocked, and without help from its member, white wouldn't be able to. White's army without help from a member, the white armies. Let me repeat that again. I apologize. I think I chopped that up a little bit. Same thing here, basically, like with the bishop. The b pawn is blocked, and without help from other members of white's army, there we go. There's no way to make black's knight move off of b5. And we're going to show every scenario so that you can see how we're going to even do the next one. We're going to do a queen. We did a queen. We'll probably do a rook next. So you get the examples of how it doesn't matter. You need a little help from a friend. Now we got one more to do. It's a queen. Same thing here. Even the mighty rook can't help its passed pawn move down the board on its own. So even the white rook can't. Now we're going to do a queen. And it doesn't matter even if it's a queen, because it still can't. I don't believe it can. Let me make sure. I might be mistaken, but I don't think so. Let me see. We finally solved the puzzle. White's queen can without help from its... Oh, it can. Okay, this one can. Without help from its companions. Breaking the blockade and getting the pawn from going is actually queen to a1. Or a3, queen to a3, which is exclam. Make sure that the queens are traded and the pawn will be as far away from the enemy king as possible. King f8, queen a5, queen b8. Of course, queen takes a5, pawn takes, king e, push there, and there, one move too late. b5, king e8, trying to help out. Otherwise, white's power down the board with b6 and queen to a7. So potentially you can get the pawn here and the queen there, here, and it's going to be over. b6, king d8, queen a, queen c. Both queen to e5 and b7. If queen e5, here, queen e5 here. This is the move. I mean, I think no, that can't be right. If queen e5, then b7. There's no way to stop that from coming to pass, so c8. Since passed pawns are so strong, the queen endgame creates another type of passed pawn. So in this line, there's really no way to prevent, this can't get going anymore because the king's guarding the queen. So this allows for the creation basically of another passed pawn on the H file. And so that's kind of the idea. It actually stops here, so I'll put a square around this. Yeah, the queen endgames are really powerful, as Jeremy Someone says, and a position will actually jump to life from that position. We're gonna now go into yeah. White to move here. White is 4 pawns down and doesn't even have a passed pawn. The computer thinks that white is doomed. And who could blame the computer for thinking that? And b5, Kerplunk! Exclaim. Give me a pass pawn now. A takes b. But if queen to e4, b6, g7, queen c8, doesn't change anything. White's b pawn is much too fast, and black can't expect more than perpetual check here. I'm thinking that even this here might even be a playable idea. You know, this because I know that the potential queen could come in here, but the queen's going to want to try to check in perpetual. This allows for the promotion of the pawn. I think c7 also is okay. Queen c7. Queen b6. Queen f3. a6. 5 pawns down, but white's passed pawn is further advanced than black's. That little fact makes all the difference. Queen g4, king f1, c4, c4, king g1, king c1, king g2. White just moves around. It gives a if given a free move, white will push the a pawn. Otherwise, if black's checks, white will move his king like back and forth, back and forth. White can't make white's move. Ugh, I apologize there. Huh. This I couldn't get this out right. Okay, white pushes the pawn. If the queen gives white a move, white will push a7. Otherwise, it's black checks. Black will check. White moves his king. Black checks. White moves his king until a draw is agreed at this point, because there's no way to stop the pawn. Now this is the pass pawn tango here. This is a Jeremy Silman game, so we get to actually get to do a Jeremy Silman here. Oops, I forgot an H. Okay. See how we're doing for time. Perfect. D4. Jeremy Silman's white, and I believe it's Shirazi is black. G7, bishop G2, knight E4, knight D5. He doesn't want to trade knights. C5, white castles, knight comes out, D takes C, D takes C, and then knight to H4, trying to attack the knight and the bishop at the same time. So castles by black, knight takes, and then pawn G4 is trying to undermine the knight. E6, G takes F, queen H4, he's playing real tough. Black is queen D3. Bishop E5, threatening mate. F4, bishop D4 check, and then E3. He takes. D. C takes D. So now we have two pieces that are attacked. Knight B4. Actually, three pieces. Oops, that was my fault there. Okay, A to E8. Queen here, and then knight C2. Knight takes there. White's pawn structure is worth a second glance. It's not very good because it's, if you think about it, it looks kind of bad, but it's not really bad. Queen d1. That traps the knight. Bishop f6. Bishop d2. Knight c2. The computer said that knight takes is actually is the choice, but bishop d2 is also strong. Queen takes d4 check. King h1. Knight c2. Rook g1. Knight e3. Queen h5. So takes e. Bishop e4 forces mate. King there. f6. Rook takes. Queen h6. Rook g8. Rook takes g8. King takes g8, and then queen g. However, I was low on time and I saw a move I deemed a clear winner, so I played it, which was this move here. King h8. If rook takes, bishop check, king there, same type of setup. Rook takes, queen g5, and mate to boot whatever he plays. Checkmate. If he tries taking here, which is basically his only thing, it still ends in mate. So that's pretty. Very complex game to lead to this basically chaotic thing, but white is one. White wins the position. One might think that more file rooks are in store, but instead I play to get the passed pawn to the basically d8 square and queen. So bishop takes as an exclam move. If you were kind of thinking of maybe pushing here, I don't know if that wins or not. I don't think this wins anymore because rook comes over. I don't think so. No. You have to change plans sometimes. If you miss a move, sometimes you gotta change plans. Queen d1. Another exclam move, because remember, Jeremy Silman's goal is to get this pawn up the board to queen. These two things I threatened to play bishop I've threatened to play bishop d4 check, and it's I also play to push the d pawn up the board to run to the end of the board and turn into a queen. So queen g7, f6. d6 was also strong, d6 here. But f6 is actually more crushing. Queen to h, bishop e7, and there it is. The d8 square is in white's hands. Black is helpless against the threat of pushing the pawn to d5, d6, d7, d8, and the rest doesn't need commentating. So we'll just basically just play it out. There's no way to stop. He's going to have the two bishops and mate. Basically, what'll happen is the rook's going to have to, let's say, move here, and then you queen, and the bishop takes, and then there's no way to win now. This is just a tremendous blunder, and so I'll put a square by the move that it stops at. Beautiful game. Let's see where we are in time. Perfect. We're doing good. This is called the dynamic passer. Well, consider two ways to pass. Two ways a pass pawn can take on a very dynamic stance. One is similar to the pass pawn tango, which we just looked at, and the other is to use the pawn as an attacking unit. So, and we're going to look at a game between Rubinstein and I don't know how to pronounce this one gentleman's name, so let me make sure I have the players' names right. I appreciate your patience on this. That's perfect. Yep, good. So d4, d5, c4, e6, Queen's Gambit declined, knight c3, knight f6, okay, bishop g5 to pin the knight to the queen, bishop e7, bishop e3, castles, knight f3. So Rubinstein's developing knight bd7, queen c2, which is going after this pawn and trying to prepare for h6 to kick the knight out, and then bishop h4, c5, rook d1 to get the rook on the queen, queen a5, knight d2, I think it's c takes d4, e takes d4, and then e5, d takes e5, knight takes, of course, and then knight to b3 with a pretty big attack coming, queen b4, oh, not b5, oops, knight b3, there we go, and queen b4, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, c takes d5, and then knight to c4, bishop takes, queen takes, queen e2, wow, it's really tempting wanting to put a rook there. Bishop takes knight, b takes, queen takes, check, rook d2, bishop d7, and then the king's got a castle, otherwise you lose the queen. Rook fe8, queen d1, here's the passed pawn, bishop a4, which is surprisingly a blunder here. Oh, wait a second, I got to the wrong spot. Bishop e5, and rook e1, which is a blunder for Rubinstein. Queen a1 is actually it's just a little bit better for black. This gets an exclam mark, because if takes, rook takes, now the queens are off the board and you have this passed pawn that's just going to become a monster. Rook takes, queen queen takes, rook e8, queen d, and then bishop a2 is a blunder. Both players missed the superiorly strong move. Queen rook to e4 is actually an exclam move here. Both when the threat is queen to e5, winning outright. Note that rook e4, if knight d4, bishop a1 is a grin of happiness right here, because if the queen has to move, the queen would check and there's no way to stop mate, and it's basically over at that point. You could try this. You could take here, take there, and then take there, and you're up a whole piece. So that too soon. H3. White managed to survive some terrible opening play and can now sit back and celebrate his new lease on life. There's no serious enemy threats to fear. His d-pawn is a definite asset. Surprisingly, for a player of black's strength, black makes two poor moves in a row, allowing white to take over the game. Bishop takes here, which is a dubious move. Black retains. Black should have retained the bishop since it keeps an eye on d5. The pass through basically to the pass d7 with all the minor pieces off. Black can only blockade with a queen or a rook, and neither of these powerful pieces want to be employed as just sitting there guarding it. In fact, this mistake all allows it basically allowed me to present a highly useful rule, a sidebar. Better was b6 here, taking the c5 square away from the knight. Other moves could have been considered were queen to b4, which is an interesting continuation. It's not as good as the other one. There's rook to e4, rook e2, bishop takes, a takes, and then rook d4. Though the endgame should be drawn after rook e8, king h7, queen b1 check, queen b3 takes, rook takes, and then rook b8. In all these cases, black would have retained some slight pressure on white's position, but not after this move. A takes, rook d8 is again a mistake. With his last two moves, black has allowed white to realize the rule calling for the creation of a queen and rook versus queen and rook situation. Much better was queen to e5. Remember how we do the idea? This is the idea of rook d6, queen e1, queen takes e1, rook takes e1, king h2, rook e8. With the queens off, black's king can safely enter the fray. If it can reach d7, the black king would not only block the pawn, but would also begin the process of attacking and winning it. Of course, white has various tries after rook e8 that will try to take advantage of black's present passivity. A well-timed rook c here, and then rook to c7 could actually be played as one. G4 to G4, and then king to G3, and then rook f4 to here, and then f5. And grabbing serious amount of space would kind of be hard and give black black ½ a point. So you always want to play. It's a good move, but it's not everything. But the ideas are what we're looking at. Ideas. Queen c6, D7. Now there's a bone in the throat, as we like to say. King F8. Queen G4, protecting from afar. Queen E6. Queen B4 check. Queen E7. Queen C3. Is it C3? Yeah, Queen C3. The interesting thing is, if let me see here. This idea actually loses because of that there, so you can't do that. And now the idea here is, if you're wondering if black could take here, black really can't. Check. If he comes there, then check, and that happens. And so if the queen comes here, then queen takes rook, queen takes, and rook takes, and it's game, set, and match. So queen C3. Black is now doomed to eternal passivity. The rest of the game saw white enjoying a good basically cat and mouse, patiently and ruthlessly taking advantage of his opponent's position and clamping down on the position. So yeah, sad that cat and mouse happens, but it does sometimes. Queen C5. Queen E. And then Queen C7. B6. King H2. A6. G3. B5. B4. F6. H4. King F8. H5. Okay, there we go. King G2. Queen E4. King H2. Queen E7. King G1. E1 check. King G2. And if you're thinking about this, no, that doesn't work, because that leads to mate. Kind of an interesting little tactical motif there. Check, that's what was actually played. King H2, King E7, or Queen E7. Rook D4, King F7, Rook D2, King F8, King G2, King H2, King E7, Rook D6, King F7, Queen C6, Queen E5, King G2, king e7, rook d3, king f7, king g1, queen e1, king g2, queen e5, king g1, check, king g, e5, and rook d2, king e7, f4, queen e6, queen c5, check, king f7, f5, queen e4, check, king f2, queen e5, queen takes, f takes, king f3, king e7, king e4, rook takes, king takes, and then king takes e5, king e7, g4, king f7, king f4, f6, g5, h takes, king g4, king f7, king takes, a5, a takes, b4, a, b, queens, queen a7, king f8, and then king g7. And surprisingly, there's no way for the queen to check the king. There's no way for that to happen. It's actually over. It's game, set, match. Now let's take a look at the passed pawn as an attacking unit. This kind of mantra or psychology, the passer has no interest in turning into a queen. It's proud of what it is, and basically what it does is it will give its life, and it'll say, I'm coming for the king, I'm coming. Basically the pawn will say, I'm coming for you, basically. Even and then the enemy king, that's basically what it says. And so it says basically be afraid, be very afraid, as that one saying goes. And he says basically that's the whole thing. That pawn, that's what we want to make a queen sometimes, because we're gonna probably call it here. Let's see, what's the time? Perfect. This is a perfect spot to call it on, because we'll be entering another game afterwards too. What we've learned from this here is that sometimes a passed pawn can be a wonderful decoy for other setups that we can use to win. A passed pawn doesn't always have to become a queen. It can sacrifice its life on a kamikaze, actually I wouldn't say that, on a mission for the team, basically to make a hole in the wall of the enemy camp. It'll do that. Its whole goal is to better the kingdom. Even at its own life, it will better the kingdom. And that's what we've kind of learned, is you have to remember that each unit on the board is a living part of the kingdom of either white or the kingdom of black. Black's pieces or pawns are all together in the king. And their whole goal is for one purpose: to keep the white king safe, or the black king, whichever side you're playing, and to, even if at a cost of their own life, to defeat the other side. So just keep that in mind. That's why you should, like what Jeremy Silman says, never be always just pushing the pass pawn. Sometimes you can use it as a decoy to get other things, and it's okay with giving its life for the kingdom if you either draw or win the game. So just keep that in the forefront. I know I repeated that a couple times, but it's very vital that we understand that chess is a game of war, all out, total war type of setup. Okay, I think we've kind of summarized the power of a pass pawn, that it has many different utilities that it could do. It could give its life up for a better position for the other pieces, or sometimes you get a blessing and it becomes a queen and you win the game. So we'll end on that there. I wanted to thank you for all logging on and participating. Remember, take what you know and what we talk about and apply it. And I appreciate your patience with a lot of the reading and stuff. Sometimes I read a little too fast, get the words muddled. But you know what? As long as you never give up and you keep pushing forward and keep pushing play, that's what matters. Not the mistakes, remember, because we even talked about it. Treasure your victories, learn from your losses. Remember, the mistakes do not define who you are. It's how you handle the mistake that defines who you are. And that's the whole thing. Do you, when you maybe make a wrong reading, do you stop, regain your clarity, and keep pushing forward? Yes, we do. We take what we know and apply it, be willing to do something with it, like what Bruce Lee said. And it comes down to a choice. You know what? The choice to receive the Lord Jesus, the Lord and Savior of your life, is a vital choice we all have to make one day. Like we always talk about, eternity is a very long time. And you know what? It's one of those things that you have to always think of. I'll give you a quick, it's like this. If you take I always tell you about a thimble. If you take a thimble and you were able to take all the water from the ocean and basically dump it onto the seashore, and you basically, if you could theoretically, but you can't, put it all onto the land, eternity has just begun. I just wanted to let you know that's how long eternity is. Something to think about. Okay. And the Team Chess Cruncher motto is what we always, and it's a thimble, by the way. I didn't say the right word. And the Team Chess Cruncher motto is what we always stand on. Then we hang up our coats, we hang up our hats, we sit down and study when most won't. Team Chess Cruncher does, and that makes all the difference. And as Wesley So says, serve the Lord Jesus, and as I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, Lord willing. I'll be back on tomorrow, and we'll keep pushing forward. Remember what Hannibal Smith said, even inside of a random position, there's always a plan. And when you find that plan, you get to say, I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, 2 thumbs up, hoorah, be blessed, Team Chess Cruncher. Let's keep learning chess, don't stop, always be improving. You know what, you're going to make mistakes, but guess what? A sign of a champion is when you make the mistake, you get up, learn from it, and keep moving forward. And I know you all are champions because we are Team Chess Cruncher. There's no I in team. Okay, be blessed, team. Bye bye, Team Chess Cruncher. Hoorah.